And that's the housing swap that you were talking about, correct?
Exactly.
That's actually really, I think that's a really good idea, because then that does give people the opportunity to explore, but not be stuck in a new lease for a house or
Right.
an apartment, or end up being homeless at the same time,
Right.
or not the same time, but or being homeless and that's so yeah, it does, and it'll help people to find where they fit in.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep. That's exactly what I would say. Yep. How do we, and like, I had to, when I was growing up, I had to figure out, like, what did it mean for me to live in New York City? I had to go through a process where I lived in California for some time, near you, closer to you, not necessarily near, but and also I lived in France for some time. These things really allowed me to understand, how did I want to operate? What places did I want to operate from? And what did I want to do in those places? But you don't really get a chance to do that until you spend a significant amount of time. You get to know the neighborhood, you get to know the environment, you feel comfortable enough to express yourself in that environment. All those things come if we improve how we're thinking about what the government can offer us, because the government can offer us a way for us to do that. The government can offer us an innovative society where people are thinking in a brighter way about their lives, and having the freedom to not, be stuck. So many people are stuck with their living with their family. And while that can be, an advantage to some, it's often a hindrance, right, to the individual's self-realization or self-actualization. So making sure that as a starting point, all humans of America have the ability to really define what it looks like, for them to live, for them to feel comfortable, within this nation. And then we have a nation that is full of people who are a bit more complete and full of their own intentionality in the world. Yeah.
yeah. You also just made me think, inspired me, I should say, to
Oh,
think.
thank you.
Yeah. So I think that, as well as, I should say, in addition to what you're saying, uh, one of the things that will help greatly, um, in being able to help our people be able to afford to do these things, is keeping the rental costs for those properties and such at a low rate. That way, a person has more freedom. They feel like they have more freedom to move if they don't feel like it's a good fit in the area that they're living in. And I
Absolutely.
think we could also implement other types of housing structures into that type of program. You know,
Oh, such as what?
like small efficiency houses.
Okay.
They're kind of like basically a little house that's a studio,
Hmm.
but they're they're weatherized, they're up to specs, they're up to standards,
Okay.
up to code, but they would be more like a temporary housing, so a short-term lease, 3 to 6 months,
Hmm.
something like that.
Hmm.
And that it doesn't even have to be that. It could be a month-to-month lease if somebody wanted to go that way.
Hmm.
And that would give a person at least 30 days if they have a place. And that's something that I've also wanted to implement into uh, getting homeless members, shelterless members off the street, including our veterans and mental health patients, stuff like that. Those types of efficiency housing can really help them, especially if we have them community monitored, not just with an individual who maybe manages the property, but also with community security to ensure that everyone on the property stays safe and that no harm is coming to anyone. Obviously, there would be some partnerships with like local law enforcement, depending on where we were at. And it wouldn't even have to occur in every single city. Most homelessness, shelterless problems come in bigger cities with populations that end up being over like 10,000 and stuff like that. Sometimes it can be excessive, like in big cities like New York, for instance. There's a lot more homeless people there than there are over here in my area, Washington. I live right across from Portland. There's more homeless in Portland than there are in Vancouver. And our homeless population has dropped a little bit, but we've also been helping support Council for the Homeless and helping to make sure that others get off the streets in some other fashion. And there are open shelters around here, and they're opening more shelters. So that's really helping out a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. I think one piece to point out, just in reference to shelters, I really don't believe in shelters. I believe that it's we have an insincere idea around, especially in New York, for example. We have a 30-day right to shelter, which basically says anybody can come into the city, and then they'll get 30 days to a shelter. But then after the 30 days, they're on the street or getting imprisoned because, you know, now they're criminals on the street rather than just people who are seeking asylum. And so I think that is actually that's actually a pipeline. I call it the immigration pipeline. So you have, you know, prison investors who make a lot of money off of what is seen as immigration and or houselessness because of these insincere ways of handling, you know, people who are in any type of housing crisis. And so I think it really changed what we have to do as a nation is really change the conversation about what it means. Sorry, there's a you know, New York City police is that's just how you know you're in New York. You just hear it all the time. Anyway, that the government is creating a system that is really understanding of the fact that everybody has a right to housing. And so what do we do as a nation? How do we change the conversation to reflect that? We change the conversation by no longer letting, you know, capitalistic interests guide how we deal with our humanitarian crisis. We have to start with the humanitarian crisis and then understand, based on that need, how we want to then fund it and manage it in a way that is, you know, respectful to humans, as well as you know, allowing the maintenance of that particular home.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I think a lot of people are seeing, as far as, you know, making sure that we have making sure that we have you know, places for people to stay there. We're seeing, you know, I'm seeing here in Vancouver, we are a developing area, so we're not nearly as big as Portland. Our housing issue is not as bad as Portland's is, but it is starting to get there. I've seen around here that there's different places that are under construction, building more housing units. I am aware also, directly across from where I live, there within the next 2 years, there's going to be some more housing units built. You can't see it, but there is a field right across from me where I'm living right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's empty. Nothing happens over there. There's a little orchard, but it is private property. And so when I was informed a few months ago that they're going to start developing that area within the next few years, I have a couple of different types of feelings about this. First, I'm concerned about the type of housing that they're building, because I don't believe that it's going to be affordable for those people who are the poorest, you know, people who really need to be able to get off the street so that they have that peace of mind, you know, to know, hey, I've got a place I can go home after work. I don't have to worry that I'm going to get mugged on the street in the middle of the night or have somebody rip my tent open. You know, that's something that really concerns me. I'm not so sure that there's a lot that I personally can do about it, except for object
Run
to
for
certain.
vice president or president.
Yes, exactly. And and you know, say, hey, this is how.
Here's a new way. Here's a new option.
Yeah, here's a new option. We should do some things this way to help
Mhm.
the poorest and the the most needy of our nation. And having property like what's across from me would actually be suitable for those efficiency houses that I was talking about, or efficiency apartments even. And they don't have to be skyscrapers, especially in a small area like this. And I say small, but actually our population here is growing, and it's roughly about 170,000 people right now. A lot of people consider Portland and Vancouver a metropolitan area, and it kind of is, because we're two cities directly on the river, and we're connected by, the I-5 and 205 bridges. So it's easy for people to go back and forth to work there. And there's a significant difference in the price of rentals over in Portland than there is here by a few $100s. So that, that's another reason why we up here are starting to have more problems with homelessness, because people are not able to afford down there. Or in other states, I've had a lot of people come up from California and tell me that they're moving up here because they can't afford California either.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
people
definitely not isolated to any one state. It's not isolated to any one city. There's a whole bunch we can do about it. And these projects can definitely take place in every single city that we have